So what is learning? That's what we are thinking about today. As a teacher, when I first started college and started school, they always make us study, or they always try to teach us this pedagogical strategies. How do I teach you to understand this information I'm trying to give you? How do I teach you to use this information that I'm showing you or presenting to you? And so one thing that's really important as a student is to be aware of how you learn. How do you learn? What are you doing to learn? And what are you actually taking in? I know we've all been in that situation where we're studying, and what we do is we read over our notes, or we read over the textbook. And by the time you're done reading, you think back and you think, oh, I don't even remember what I was reading for the past 30 minutes. And even now, I still have those moments. And so if you really become aware of how you learn, and if you're actually engaging yourself in the learning, it helps you to learn. It helps you to understand what you are trying to maintain, or what are you trying to keep in your mind. So one of the things that we're first looking at is Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's was this educational scientist that really kind of started evaluating how do people learn and what are these levels of learning that occur. So looking at Bloom's taxonomy simply means a hierarchy or these increasing levels of knowledge. So at the very base, you can think of this as a pyramid. At the very base, we have remembering, or not, what used to be known as knowledge. This was the old Bloom's taxonomy. This is the new revised edition, okay? So remembering something is at the very base of our knowledge, the very base of our understanding or our learning. And as you move up, you begin to understand, you begin to be able to apply and analyze, and then eventually evaluate and create. And those last three, or the top three tiers, are what we're going to try to focus on in this class. So looking at the next sheet that we have, if you'll flip to the larger sheet, here we have the levels of learning from simple to complex. And this is a sheet that was given to college students to try to, again, understand how do you best learn, and what are those levels that are going to lead you to be able to evaluate or create something. So if we look here, one thing that you need to keep in mind is, if you'll go back to the smaller sheet, one of the big things about learning is that you have to remember that this is going to be an active process, okay? You have to actively learn and actively engage yourself in the learning. So if you're studying and all you're doing is laying back, slouching back, and passively trying to read something, you're not going to be able to hold on to that information. You're not really going to process that information. So the more you are actively trying to think about what you're doing and how you're learning something, the more likely you are going to be able to learn that information. So from there, we have our levels of learning. And a lot of times, what teachers do is, when we're trying to create assignments for you, we try to start off really basic with this remembering level, okay? And as we move through an assignment, we will actually continue up that pyramid, up that hierarchy, all the way to analyzing, evaluating, or creating. In this chart that you have, you want to remember that this chart is going from increasing complexity. That's actually moving down, okay? So here is the base. You have to be able to remember the information, the facts, in order to be able to do anything higher up. In the remembering level, what you want to realize is that when you're remembering something, this is just the simple facts, okay? All you're doing is recalling factual information. So in this chart, what we have are 3 examples of types of questions that increase in complexity, and some words that are usually used to help you figure out what level you're at. And so when we're looking at the remembering level, again, we're just looking at the facts. But when we're, and a simple fact, especially in biology, would be, what is DNA? Okay? And you should be able to tell me that DNA is a molecule that's made up of nucleotides. That's a simple fact. Then as you move up the levels of complexity, or you move up balloons, you'll move to comprehend or understand. And this is being able to give meaning to those facts, so you're building up on this. So you should be able to explain or summarize something about that fact, such as explaining the role of DNA in protein synthesis. Then, again, as we go, we have applying your knowledge, okay? Remember, this is the levels of learning. So when you're able to apply your knowledge, you're going to be able to address a new situation. So in our biology example, what is DNA? I know DNA is made of nucleotides. I know that it's made of CHNOP, okay? Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and phosphorus. But then I should be able to apply that to this question. What would happen if a point mutation turned an amino acid codon into a stop codon? What would happen then? What is happening to that DNA in a mutation? How is that going to affect this process? Then from there, analyzing, this is just going to be able to compare one subject's parts, characteristics, and overall meaning with another. So really analyzing, you're often going to compare something, okay? So apply, you're using the knowledge you already know. Compare, you're going to be able to analyze or break down two different categories. Then from there, we have our evaluating. Evaluating, you should be able to assess, or you should be able to support some sort of question. And then in the final level, you should be able to create something. So you're going to be designing or inventing maybe a model, maybe a scenario, maybe even a question of your own. Okay? So from there, we're going to move down to the next little section here. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions here. 6 different types of questions. And what I want you to do is spend a minute to read over these questions. Really think about what level of balloons, what level of learning you're focusing on with those questions, and match them to the words on this side. Okay? So right now we'll go ahead and pause the video and give you a minute to match up those signs. So the next portion right here, this bottom portion, we're actually going to save this for later. And with this section, this is actually you thinking about how you're learning, especially during something like when you're studying for a test. But we'll actually move to the back side of our worksheet and look over a little at the knowledge dimensions. With knowledge dimensions, what we're trying to focus on here is you want to think about what levels of learning that you're doing and what it really means to you. So kind of going back to balloons, this is thinking about how do you learn or what are you learning. So factual knowledge is just like what it sounds. Those are your facts. That's that understanding, or I'm sorry, at that remembering level. Okay? So this is going to be knowledge that is basic to specific disciplines. So that's your basic knowledge. Then, thinking of factual knowledge, you want to think of the difference between biology and chemistry. that you need to know, like cells, eukaryotic, prokaryotic. In chemistry, you'll need to know reactions, reaction rates, protons, atoms, neutrons, electronegativity. Okay, those are some basic factual knowledge. Then you can also move into the level of knowledge, or this dimension of knowledge known as conceptual knowledge. This is when you're going to be able to classify things or group things or make generalizations. So for us, this is going to be considered overarching ideas, and you're going to see that a lot in this class and in our curriculum. Okay? This is when we're going to make these bigger connections to information. Then the next knowledge dimension is procedural knowledge. In procedural knowledge, this is going to refer to knowledge that helps students do something specific to that discipline. So for us, this is going to be in our labs. Okay? I know in Bio 1, we all read about gel electrophoresis and making those DNA fingerprints, and we read and kind of learned and talked about the basic steps to that procedure and having to inject the DNA or inject that unknown material into the gel itself. But now we're actually going to be able to learn how to do that. We're actually going to gain the knowledge from the labs to be able to perform those techniques. And then the very last type of knowledge is your metacognitive knowledge. And this is where you're actually going to be aware of your own cognition. So you're really thinking about what you are learning and how you're learning it. And so we're going to practice a lot about being strategic and reflective of our knowledge and of our learning. Okay? So for the rest of this page, we're going to want to look at these 3 questions and get a little practice on this. One thing I want you to keep in mind is that going across this chart right here, we're actually moving up in complexity as we move over the right-hand column. But for these dimensions of knowledge, it's not really a hierarchical thing. You're not moving up a ladder. But you can do remembering or understanding types of Bloom's taxonomy, that type of learning within a procedural knowledge. But as you are moving up these up Bloom's in the levels of learning, you'll have to be able to remember to be able to do any of these other steps. Without the remembering portion, you're not going to be able to get to creating or evaluating. And so for our class, while it's going to be important to remember facts, what we really want to focus on are the last 3